Well, welcome to our live stream today. It's great to see you here, and for those who watch it later, we look forward to seeing your comments. Well, today we have an interesting character all the way from Hungary, and we're going to find out a little bit about her life and what she's been up to, and what she did to get out of the JW. So let's bring our guest in. Good evening,
Hey.
Molly. I had to
Yep.
think about that for a minute.
Hi, everyone.
Nice to have you on the live stream today.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
And how have you been of late?
Well, could be worse, could be better. I'm excited because I have a new job. But on the other
Wow.
hand, I did not have a good weekend because my bunny died. So
Oh dear.
that was that was not a fun weekend,
Yeah.
but I had all of my friends who could physically come and visit and help me say goodbye to
Mhm.
him. So it was not something that I had to go through alone, which I appreciate.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, our pets become a bit like our family, don't they?
Oh, they do. They definitely
Yeah.
do.
Alrighty. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your history, how you got into the J Dubs, and
Oh,
how
dear.
you how you managed to get out.
Well, both are complicated, but basically, when I was around 5 years old,
Hmm.
my mom and my dad finished or almost finished building our family house that I grew up in. And we moved in there after my father got arrested for robbery. And
Oh,
when we moved in there, there was a neighboring family a few houses back who were Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was a kid, I made friends with their kids, and
yeah.
so I got indoctrinated as the only person in the family who was a Jehovah's Witness. So I kind of sort of lived between the two families because my mother was never home, and I preferred to be over there anyway because my mother, I guess because I kind of sort of look like my father more than she does, like more than
Mm,
my mom.
yeah.
So she took out all of her like anger and resentment on me,
Hmm.
and I preferred to stay over there anyway. So it was quite easy for them to indoctrinate me, make me believe that, oh yes, Joe was gonna fix all that, and
Yep.
you just have to be a good Jehovah's Witness, and it's gonna all go away. So I got indoctrinated, and I was actually getting ready to be baptized in my teen years. Of course, I legally couldn't do that until I was 18, so it was a slow process of me wanting to get baptized and envying every other person who got baptized because I was
Yeah.
like, and that happened. But when I was 15, so that's roughly like 10 years ago now, when I was 15, my mom caught me sneaking off to a convention,
Oh.
and she was pissed, very pissed. And so she told me, if you ever meet them again, you have two options, and I will make you answer. Either I set their house on fire while they are asleep, or I set our house on fire and claim the insurance money and move the family away from here. So obviously I was like, oh, well, that's neither option is something that I want. So I told my congregation that, hey, I'm kind of in trouble. A little help here,
Mm.
hi. And they were like, sure. So they kept sending me letters. They hid them in the water facilities where, who checked the water facilities. So I managed to, sneak out and get the letters and then send, like, put letters back for them to get. And we communicated like this for roughly a year.
Right.
And I, and then it started changing. The communication
Mm.
started changing and being a bit more bit different. So I decided to ask, like, is everything okay? And they were like, yes. But then a common friend of ours from school called me and said, hey, actually, everything is not okay. And I was
Oh.
like, what's going on? And he was like, well, uh, your best friend almost got disfellowshipped for pornea. Start there. Luckily, her father is an elder, so she managed to evade that. And she attempted suicide 3 times,
Uh,
citing missing you as a major reason. And I was like, um, was anybody going to tell me about this, or was I supposed to just telepathically find out? And so I confronted my Jehovah's Witnesses sisters, like, what's going on? And they were like, well, what's going on? You don't come over and you don't, you know, talk to us. And I'm like, well, I
mm,
can't really do that. And so we had this big argument about me being like my mother. And anyone who knows me knows that once someone tells me you're just like your mother,
mm,
that is over. No, that's something that no one will ever come back from. Like once you say that, I'm out. That's no. And so I just told them, oh, you know what? I'm gonna leave Jehovah. I'm gonna leave all of this. I'm gonna go out and get an education. I'm gonna learn a new language. I'm just gonna get a higher education. I'm gonna write and I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. This is not happening anymore. No, I'm not like my mother. And if you ever think that after like 10 years relationship that we had,
mm,
you're just dead wrong. And so that's what I did. I had this amazing English teacher,
mm,
who was very, still is, he's still a teacher luckily, but he's very paternal with his students. And when I was in 9th grade, so roughly a year and a half-ish before I cut ties with Jehovah's Witnesses, he 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 said, oh, the school is going to have this new program. It's an international schooling program, and there's a very hard selection process. It's university level, like university level education. You know, any of you guys want to apply? And I was like, oh yeah. And my Jehovah's Witness family was like, oh hell no. And I was like, well, I'm gonna. And they were like, no, you're not. So that was my first step. When after this argument happened, I was like, oh yes, I'm gonna. And then someone told me, oh, you're not gonna be able to do that because they needed an intermediate Spanish speaking level for admissions. And I was like, oh, you think I'm not going? Okay, just watch me. And I learned Spanish in 2 months just to get admissions. And I got admitted, thankfully. And I graduated there. That's where I met, to this day, my best friends who we speak with every day about anything that happens in our lives. And we can call each other at 1 a.m., no questions asked, and we can just be ourselves. And that transferring of classes helped me a lot because they didn't know I was a Jehovah's Witness. So they didn't, because my class before, they were like, oh, she's that weird, Jehovah's Witness girl. Because yes, I was actually one of those like Jehovah's Witnesses who most of the memes are about, the very like pious and pompous, like very
yep.
like snitch on you because you looked
Mm,
at you looked at someone the wrong way or something. I was very like that because I thought it was real. So, and that's that was the first step out of the brainwashing. I was quite not the like detached and not quite untangled,
Yep.
all my brainwashing and stuff. I mean, it was most of my childhood, so at that point, it was like, oh yeah, I need to do something about this. And thankfully, my best friend was a gay guy, and when that was one of the things that I had a hard time coming over because, well, it's Hungary, so you're not gonna find any resources really to help you overcome sexism or homophobia or stuff like that. And the
Yep.
JWs are very good at instilling those ideas in you. So he came out to me, and I was like, no one should have to do this,
Yeah.
because he had like a look on his face that was like, am I going to lose this friendship now because I'm gay? And I'm like, nobody should have that. So then I was like, okay, yeah, even if I don't understand or don't agree, I'm supporting this. And then fast forward a little less than a year after that, and then I came out as asexual. And that was important to me because when I was a Jehovah's Witness, one of my major anxieties was I will have to get married, and I will have to like do all that marriage stuff.
Mm.
And everyone who knows me now is like, if you ever got married, you would be utterly miserable. Like,
Yep.
they are like, no, I'm so happy that you did not stay in long enough to do that, because you would just lose your mind. And I'm like, yes, I would. Like, I don't like I don't like the idea of marriage, for me anyway. Like,
Yep.
for some people it's amazing, and there are people like me who is like, no. And then, because my friend at that point knew that I was a Jehovah's Witness, he was like, hey, maybe you're not asexual, maybe you're just, still mulling over the indoctrination that you had. And I was like, yeah, I'm not excluding myself from any conversation. And if anything ever happens, I will be like, oh yeah, this is something that I actually have to think about. But then time passed, and I luckily moved out of my blood family's house. So I got to be alone with my thoughts and with my time and with my research. And I was like, oh wait, no, actually I'm asexual, I'm aromantic, I don't want relationships, I want friendships and relationships with other humans that are fulfilling, like intellectually too. So people who I can speak with, I can share with. And one of the most important things, other than these discoveries about my identity and myself, was discovering arts. Because it's highly disencouraged for us to do arts, because, hey, it requires thinking. It requires that you be like creative and out of the box. So why would they encourage that? And I always loved writing, because it was something that I made. It was something mine. No one read it, because, well, for the most part, they didn't even know that it was happening. So no one read it. No one bothered me about it. It was just me doing stuff. And I even made up these like code languages to write freely so that no one could read it, just me. And I remember that I was in 5th grade when this passion for me started, because we had an arts teacher, and she was Hungarian, but she lived in the Netherlands for a while.
Okay.
And he said, in the Netherlands, they don't do arts education like in Hungary, because in Hungary it's like you learn art history and stuff like that. But she said, I don't want any of that, because you're not you're not a Renaissance painter. So I want you to have a little fun and not worry about like drawing still lives and stuff.
Yeah.
So she was like, draw me a comic book through the year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Every month I will gather them, I will evaluate them, and So we needed to do that. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And I started drawing this comic book, and that was a starting point for me to love writing. I loved it. I loved that the characters could be different,
Hmm.
and the characters could be, oh, I think this is the right way, and this is the right way. And it's still with me to this day that any free moment I get, I'm writing, or I'm thinking about writing, even when I'm not typing or writing with hand. I'm thinking, oh, how should I put it together, or
Yeah.
how should it go together? And that was something that once I left Jehovah's Witnesses helped me a lot, because I had an outlet to express these things. And my my first story is currently, I am rewriting it for who knows how many times I have rewritten it, because I keep finding out, oh hey, that's actually very, very like stereotypical, or that's actually
Hmm.
very like something that has been done before a million times. So I'm like, oh yeah, this is the way it goes. And basically the story is kind of sort of like an like my life experience, but also the life experience of the people who are close to me,
Yep.
just meshed together. And every experience is like, I put all the experiences and the observations that I had about people around me, and just put them in a pile and
Yeah.
split them out into various characters. And even if the people who the story is about would read it, they would not recognize themselves, because I jumbled them up and I just distributed
Hmm.
them in a way that, oh yeah, this character wants, or through this character I want to talk about this. And the characters are a group of 20-year-olds in art academy, and their thing is, performing arts. They are dancers and singers and composers, and
Yep.
some of them are gay, some of them are people of color, some of them are non-binary, some of them have mental illnesses, and some of them have abusive families or bad backgrounds. And because I got tired of seeing especially young women in media represented as empty, I read a lot. So for me it
Mm.
got very annoying that especially female characters are empty, or if they are smart, they are emotionless, or
Yep.
that they all they have is their smarts, or all they have is, oh, they are quirky, but it's a kind of quirky that is there to attract someone. And I was like, oh, that's so annoying. Can we not? Like, can we have some characters who are not about romance, or something superficial like that, or about fame or anything, but about something different,
Yeah.
who have mental health issues, and who have like social anxiety and baggage to deal with, and how they bounce off of each other. And I don't know how it's gonna turn out. I don't know if anyone else but me will appreciate it in the end, but I know that I do appreciate it, because I feel like it's needed. And especially with, you know, the bad rap women get in the org,
Mhm.
I was like, I want some women characters in this who are different, but all strong in their own way. And
Yep.
same with the guy characters. I wanted the guy characters to bounce off of each other too, in a way that is like, hey, they are friends, but they won't accept hurting anyone for any reason. And they will have debates and arguments about, hey, I don't think you should have done that, or I think you should have done this instead of what you did, and stuff like that. And I'm really passionate about this specifically, because I feel like more positive representation is needed for women and men just collaborating and cooperating together without ulterior motives or without any hindrance because of their gender or whatever. So I'm really hopeful that I get to publish it soon. Although right now it's still being written. But I feel like this is the version that's gonna be published, which I'm excited about because I never had this confidence in this specific story before, because I feel like right now I'm the most educated I've ever been, as in I spend a lot of my time, if I'm not writing, then researching about writing and researching about history, about other cultures, because I just love learning different things. And I love experiencing different things. And I feel like that's one of the things that we are stripped of when we're Jehovah's Witnesses, that we cannot say, oh, you know what, for the hell of it, I'm just going to travel to Greece and have the time of my life for a week, then come back and act like nothing happened. And I remember that the first time I traveled all alone, no family, no Jehovah's Witnesses, no anything, nothing. I looked at my bank account and I was like, hey, I have money to buy plane tickets to Rome. Dude, I'm going to Rome. Yes. And I just booked a plane ticket. I looked for the cheapest possible accommodation that I could find. And actually there was a mix-up in my accommodation for some reason, or maybe the web page wasn't accurate. But either way, I ended up being in this shared room hostel. And well, with my social anxiety, at first I was like, oh, that's gonna be terrible. I am here for 10 days. How am I going to deal with strangers being in the room all the time? Oh, no. But then I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to sleep there anyway. So who cares? And then at that point, I just got excited. I had roughly 6 weeks before traveling when I booked it. I was like, oh, you know what? It's fine. I'm just gonna have the time of my life. And I went to the train station to go to the airport. And I was like, oh my God. I almost chickened out at the train station, like, okay, you know what? I can't do this. I actually can't do this. Like, oh no, it's gonna be bad. It's not gonna be good. And then I got on the train anyway, and I got on the plane. These two very awesome ladies sat next to me, and they were like, oh, how long are you going for? And I was like, oh, about 10 days. They were like, wow, in a backpack? Because I have this, depending on who you ask, bad or good habit that I hate luggage. I prefer backpacks, and I will die on that hill. So I kind of like stuffed all of my clothes and a change of shoes in my backpack. It was so tightly packed that I couldn't take out anything. So I needed to be very strategic about placing like the chewing gum and my headphones and phone and passport and all that. But then, we were talking through the entire flight, and they were super nice. And we got to the airport. I got lost in my way to the transit from airport to Rome. I was like, oh no. And then, luckily, I overheard someone mentioning, oh yes, the transit to Rome is that way. And I was like, oh, okay, good. So I just got on that transit. Luckily, I was on the right bus. And then we arrived to Rome, main bus station. I walked to my accommodation. I met the guys I was accommodated with. It was a guy from Spain and another guy who we didn't speak with much because he was out all day and all night. He knew how to party, apparently. And so with this guy from Spain, we spoke in Spanish and we hit up a friendship. We went down to the hotel kitchen and we were speaking in Spanish, and I mentioned, oh, I kind of miss this Mexican candy that my Mexican friend used to bring to school. And then a guy turns around and says, "Hey, I'm from Mexico. What's up?" And I was like, "What?" So we started a conversation, the three of us. And then somehow someone mentioned Argentina. And then this girl turns around like, "Hey, I'm from Argentina. What the hell?" And then I spent the whole week just talking to them, and we went out to lunch and dinner with them and just shared. I had some accidentally left some candy in my bag from my grandma, and I was like, "Hey," I went down to the bar of the hostel, and I was like, "Hey, you can have it," and they were like, "Wow, nice." And it was like that week I was more sociable than I usually am. Like usually I would not speak. I would not speak to strangers because I just don't like it. Like I feel like I don't know you. I don't know your boundaries, and I would hate to like overstep anyone's boundaries. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to observe and then see what happens. And but that week it was so nice, and there was a time when I went out to lunch, and there was this quite nice and humorous group of Americans sitting at the next table. So I struck up a conversation with them, like, "Hey, how's it going? What's the dessert?" Because the dessert looked good, and I was like, "I need to have that at one point, even if not today. I will have that dessert. What's that?" So I can order it. And they were like, "Oh yeah, it's a creme brulee. It's amazing." And I was like, "Oh yes, we're definitely having that eventually." But the portions were so big that I could not have it that day, so I returned to that restaurant for the creme brulee. But that was just so nice that, oh yeah, I got to go, no responsibility, no like, "Oh my God, what about the Kingdom Hall? What about like, what about my family?" I was like, well, I booked it. Like my mom and my sister were nagging me about like, don't go, like cancel the trip. Like, why would you travel alone? Like someone is going to like attack you or whatever. And I was like, attack me how? Like it's not like I'm going to an unsafe place, because if I was going to some place where those kinds of things are common, then I would understand the risk that, oh yeah, probably you shouldn't go alone. Certain places, like there are certain places that I visited with friends or family, but I wouldn't visit alone because yeah, they are not safe. But it was just a nice experience to decide one day, oh, my bank account is money, let's just go. And I have been trying to do that ever since. Unfortunately, it didn't happen because COVID and all that. But then my sister got married and we traveled to the Maldives, and that was nice too, because even though it was with family, I just did not care. So I went, I was there for the wedding, but because I wanted to go by myself anyway, that's why my sister said, like, don't go. We're going together because we want to get married there. So don't book anything. And I was like, fine, whatever. We will go together then. And I was just like, if I want to go somewhere, I will. So I swam out to look for sharks, and I met a shark. I think she was more bothered than I was, even though she scared the crap out of me because I did not see her until she was just kind of close. So I was like, oh, so there's a shark. Neat. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just not do the thing until she just decided to, oh, okay, and left. I managed to pet a turtle. It swam up to me, and I was like, ooh, That's awesome. And then we followed it for a while. It was cool with it though. It wasn't like threatened or anything. He went down and up between the swimmers who noticed him. I met with a manta ray, which was scary because I did not see it. Also, I did not see it until the last moment when it started kind of backing up. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not a fish. So I was like, ooh, that's okay. So I was like, okay, I need to back up a little. And that was so exciting for me because I love the sea. And unfortunately for me, I was born in Hungary. So my seeing days are limited to that 1 or 2 times a year when I can travel. So anytime I go near the sea, I'm like, I'm going in there and I'm not coming up until I'm absolutely starved and dehydrated. And so that's what happens. Anytime I'm anywhere near the sea, that's what happens. I have my, you know, my gear to not have to stop swimming. So I'm like, oh well, see you at dinner, I guess. And I just spend the entire day just swimming, and then I come out when either someone comes and gets me like, hey, it's been 7 hours since we've last seen you. We're hungry, so we're gonna leave. And we're not gonna leave you alone. So let's just go and eat.
Yeah.
So that for me is always something that I love to do, and especially when I traveled 2 times with friends. Once to Sardinia, which is in Italy. We were invited by our Italian classmates to go visit them during summer break, and it was also nice because we got to make our own program and we got to learn some Italian recipes, which I love Italian recipes. So anytime I'm in doubt on what to cook, it's Italian.
Yeah.
And I just loved that. We traveled, we walked, we stayed out late, woke up early, and did whatever we wanted. That was just so nice as well. And when we graduated from high school, we were like, hey guys, it's only like the beginning of June. So right now, if we're very smart, we can go to Greece for like less than $100, the three of us.
Yep.
And we were like, oh yeah, we're doing that. And we put our money together, booked this trip to Greece, and we just went and spent the week eating, drinking, swimming, and traveling near our accommodation, going out to dance and have dinner and listen to music and talk to strangers for the week. It was also so fun. So for me, the fact that I can travel now and take on new jobs and not have to worry about all that, and the fact that I can wake up one day and decide to cut my long hair to this is the best part of leaving all that and my family behind, because even my blood family is very like, why did you cut your hair? And I'm like, why not cut my hair? That's a better question. Why not? And they were like, you look like a guy. And I'm like, well, that was kind of the point. That was kind of the point. Yes. Because I also, as you know, the distance grows between my family, and the more educated I become, and the more experienced I become in living my life, I realized, I think it was roughly 2 years ago, that I'm non-binary. So I don't like either feminine or masculine traits per se.
Mm-hmm.
I just pick up traits and exhibit traits that I like. And
Yep.
I wear clothes that I like, regardless of their usual, like, is that for a guy or a girl? I don't know. I don't care. If I like it, I like it. And that's always been kind of like that.
Mm.
Even when I was a Jehovah's Witness, one of the things that I got counseled about was like, you're on way too good terms with the boys in the congregation. And I'm like, well, it's not my fault. I'm just existing.
Yeah, yeah.
But then since I left the org, whenever I meet guys my age, like 2 weeks ago, no, that was actually, yes, 2 weeks ago, we crashed a friend's birthday party, and it was just 3 people who knew, no, actually 5 people who knew me there, and we were 10, I think, altogether. So we went around introducing ourselves, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be one of those situations where I was the only woman, so I was like, oh, it's gonna be one of those situations where I'm gonna feel like excluded from the conversation because everyone is like, can we talk about this in front of her? But it didn't happen. They were like, yo, dude, what's up? And I was like, thank you. That's exactly what I want. Right? That's exactly what I want.
Yep.
So this is a fun aspect of just living, especially because Hungary also has this very like outdated idea about gender and identity, that, oh, you're, good Hungarian Christian, so then you're a heterosexual white person. And it's like, oh, is that so? Okay, I guess that's good. For who? I don't know, but for some, apparently.
Yep.
So it's fun to get this chance to dye my hair. Just this year, I started dyeing my hair. It was neon pink, then neon blue, then, I mean, the hair dye was called toxic, but it's like highlighter yellow. And then I decided, ooh, actually, I feel that my hair is being a bit damaged, so I'm gonna go black, which actually I wanted to do ever since I was a child. I remember that when we moved to the house that I grew up in, I hid in the garden and cut my own hair. And oh yeah, I agree that Jehovah's Witnesses would have ruined my life, most definitely, if I did not leave when I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I,
Like,
just while we're talking about for a minute, going back to, like, you've just talked about being on holiday with those 10, with the only woman with the 10 guys.
yeah.
If you were to compare that and when you were associated with the J Dubs,
Mm.
what's the difference between the two bunches of friends?
Ooh, a lot. Like, first of all, in this group of 10 people,
Yep.
there were 4 gay people. So
Right.
there was myself, the birthday boy, my
Yep.
best friend,
Yeah.
and my other close friend. So it's like 4 people were not straight, and the rest of the guys were, or they are
Yep.
not out, whatever. But the thing is that is a major difference, that I did not go seeking friendships with queer people explicitly. It just happened.
Happened. Yeah.
And one of the funniest things is that the birthday boy is an ex-Muslim.
Okay.
And I remember that he was leaving the religion when we first met. So I guess we kind of sensed that kind of being lost in each other, because he was like, you were the first, like, because he's from Iran, and in Iran, guys and girls are in different schools, so they don't really meet girls their age. So it was like, dude, you were the first woman I've ever met, and oh, you were one to meet for the first time. I was like, what the hell is going on? That's he was like, I thought I was going to die. I was like, what is going on here? Because you guys were so loud and so expressive, and you guys were like just randomly sleeping on the desk and all that. Because when they said it's university level, it was. We were very, very prone to falling asleep during the breaks and just waking up ringing. So we were very prone to not sleeping well, so much so that we actually all had to like remind each other, hey, dude, did you eat? Did you sleep? Are you okay? Are we functioning? Are we still functioning? Because the amount of messages, we would send to each other and to our teachers in the middle of the night was alarming at certain points, as we were, getting closer and closer to final exams. We were like, coffee. So we were like just obsessed with coffee, obsessed with caffeine. So much so that I actually had to be very smart about how I brew my coffee, because my mother stopped me from drinking more than one a day. But then I needed to finish assignments and all that. So I was like, nope, not happening. So I brewed multiple coffees in the morning and hid them in my room to drink when I got home. And I also liked, there was this very cheap, like not even $50, if we convert the Hungarian forint to dollars, not even $50 vanilla coffee in the school like vending machine. And I was like, oh yeah, that's my jam. So it was not particularly healthy, but we all graduated and we all got jobs and got into university. So that's actually great that we did. And we all were very supportive of each other. I remember we had this competition like, hey, who sends the most emails to that teacher supervising them during the night? I believe that I won that with 70 emails, I think, to my geography teacher who was supervising the final assignment. He was like very supportive, and all of our teachers were actually very supportive. So it was so nice that from my previous class, where I was kind of an outcast, I did not really have friends, I got into a small class of just 5 people where we could all just speak and be like, "Ooh, yeah, that's actually a good idea. No, that's not not a good idea," or this and that. And we, to this day, when we meet, even if we're drunk or even if we're like sleepy, we always have these very kind of high concept conversations, like talking about, oh, did you hear about the like new NASA stuff? Oh yeah, but why even do that, or stuff like that? So it's like always, of course, we have a lot of fun, but our conversations are usually very, very fulfilling, as in like it doesn't feel like, oh, I just wasted a day being with these people, or that I was bored. It's always so much fun, and that's, I think, something that could never really happen when you're a Jehovah's Witness, because the moment you say, oh, I disagree, you would be like, disagree? Disagree. And I am thankful that I left when I left, because if I didn't, I would definitely not be where I am today. Because if I just left a year later, then I would have been late to transfer classes. I would have been that much more dedicated to getting baptized and all that. And well, I had a lot of issues that no one noticed. Like and looking back, because therapy is useful like that, you can look back and see, was it always like this? And then have that moment that, oh yes, it was. You just swept it under the carpet real good, or you thought you did. So, for example, I had anxiety, and to this day, when my anxiety flares up, my stomach gets upset. And I had, especially when we went to conventions or the Kingdom Hall the next day, I always had an upset stomach. And I remember my Jehovah's Witness sister was upset, like, why are you like, why is it that whenever you sleep over, your stomach is upset? And I'm like, gee, why? And then looking back, it's like, ooh, was that always there? And then looking back, oh yes, it was. I was like, oh, I must have eaten something bad. Nope. That was just my anxiety being like, nope, 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 nope. Like, stop that. No. And I was very, very depressed when I left. And even before I left, but once I left, there was this sense of, well, what if it is actually true and I messed up? But then, but no, it's not actually true, because, like, I read the Bible alone, multiple versions of it, actually, multiple languages, because I was like, I want to get to the bottom of it. And then in all of the versions I read, it said something different. It was like, so I was like, okay, well, it's not true. At least I don't think it is. So whatever. And then I had this major sense of being lost, that, oh, how do I even go on? That was my entire identity. And I was like, oof, what do I even go on? And that's when I started watching Marvel movies. That was my first interest, or new interest, after I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, other than writing, was Marvel movies. And I remember being like, wow, this is actually nice. Especially the Iron Man movies were very like important for me, because the Iron Man character has a similar, like, anxiety and PTSD and a lot of trauma that he doesn't yet acknowledge properly. So seeing that unfold in the Marvel movies, I was like, wow, I need to go to therapy, because I was suicidal and I was self-harming too at that point. And I was like, actually, yeah, that's not good. We need a therapy. And at that point, my best friend helped me not only book the first appointment at the therapist, but also helped me cover, because my mother doesn't believe in mental health issues. She thinks it's all attracted by negative thoughts. So it's like, how do I tell this woman that, nope, I'm depressed and I'm suicidal and I need therapy? Get me there. So he had me cover, like, the appointment. He was like, oh yeah, we need to prepare this presentation. That's why we're meeting in the school. And so I went to therapy. And unfortunately, the first therapist kind of misdiagnosed me. And because in Hungary, trauma related to religion is not really something we talk about, it was not a not a proper fit, but I did not realize it until last year when after, you know, everything with COVID and with, there was a lot of things happening. So
Mm.
at first, at the end of 2019, we lost my grandpa,
Mm.
and then COVID started happening, and I started getting sick often. And I was like, okay, I cannot do this. I cannot go back to work. I cannot speak because my body just decided, okay, no, that's not happening. You're not gonna speak. You're not gonna go to work. I could not stand up. I was having fainting spells, and I I called a private, because in Hungary, for all doctors, basically there is a public and a private sector.
Yep.
Now the public sector is covered by your taxes, so you don't have to pay for that. However, you run the risk of, you know, it being a bit sloppy.
Mm.
And so I went to this private therapist, a psychiatrist, and I talked with him about all of these things, and he prescribed me medication. And ever since then, I feel improvement, major improvement in my sleep. Although my sleep is still erratic now that I'm off my. Um, I had two medications, one for sleep and one for antidepressant, and basically the sleeping pills you cannot take for long because they are habit forming, so you will not be
Yep.
able to fall asleep if you take them for too long. So now I'm off them, but I sleep better. So it's
Hmm.
still erratic, but I sleep better. And I can, which never ever happened before, I can make phone calls without having to take half an hour to get
Yep.
myself together to make the phone call. I can stand up and order at restaurants, which also never happened before. I was always like, uh, this is so awkward. It's so bad. And so now I can do that, and now I can answer phone calls without having that. Ooh, what is
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
So I I feel that it's important that we acknowledge therapy, and also that we acknowledge that I, even though I have a lot of, bad experiences with my family and with Jehovah's
Mm.
Witnesses, I feel like um I feel like it was it was what it was, and
Yeah.
all I can do now is think of it in a productive way. And the way I think of it now is as if, children were learning how to walk. If a
Hmm.
child stands up and walks easily at the first try, when something small happens, like they trip or stumble, they won't be able to get themselves up because they didn't fall. But if a child falls and stumbles when they first try to walk, they will get themselves up. And when it happens again, they will just brush it off and keep
Yeah.
going. And I feel like that's the same with all of this baggage, is that I won't say that it made me stronger because I feel like that's such a untrue narrative, but I
Yeah.
feel like it made it made me capable. It made me capable of seeing things from different perspectives. It made me sensitive to different perspectives, and it made me want to improve and do better,
Hmm.
to not be
Yep.
like that, to not be in that situation again. To And it made me want to get better so that I cannot be in that position again. And I feel like that's the way I'm trying to look at it now, obviously I have bad days. We all do. And I
Yep.
have days when I have more anxiety and more negative thoughts than positive thoughts, but that's also necessary because I think that, you know, unfortunately once we're stuck with mental health issues, we're stuck with them, and the best we can do is do our best to mitigate and to realize what are our triggers, what are
Yeah.
our issues, what are the ways in which we can best cope. And that's something that I think is very important for us to
Hmm.
learn when we're dealing with trauma and when we're dealing with leaving a high control group or a bad relationship or a bad situation. It's that, oh yeah, I won't think that, oh, it's what made me stronger, or it was destined to happen, but it is
Yeah.
what it is. It
It
happened,
is.
and I will use it to propel me forward by being like, nope, not going back there again, not doing
Yeah.
that again, nope, not having that again. And I feel like that's something that possibly makes me me, because even among my friends, I am the one who would give the most harsh relationship advice, as in, like, really? No, don't do that. And sometimes they will be like, wow, you're so harsh. Why? And I'm like, well, I all of this, I can I make connections in very sometimes very like zigzaggy ways, but I
Hmm.
feel like I am able to make connections in my head about situations like others aren't necessarily, and I think that that's a useful skill, even if it comes from a
Yeah.
whole lot of trauma and baggage. But it's a useful skill to have, to be able to connect dots even when others might not, or even when others need more time to connect those dots. And that helps, I feel like, helps us avoid bad situations again,
Mm.
even though we had to go through some bad situations, but at least we are prepared to recognize them and
Yeah.
avoid them, which
Absolutely.
is which is a great skill, I think.
Yeah. No, it is. So, if you were to look to the future, what would one of your biggest goals be?
Ooh. Well, one is publishing this book.
Yep.
I hope that with my new job, and with my increased income that comes with that, I hope I will be able to be less stressed, more
Hmm.
motivated, and have more ways to save money so that I can do that.
Great.
And so that's one. And the other is, I always dreamt of, since I left the org and since I became the Molly I am today, is
Yep.
that once I have more money and more ways to go about these things, I want to establish a shelter for kids like I was, so that they can leave their families and that they can get a roof over their head and not have to deal with abuse. And I want to help legislation to protect children better and to protect abuse victims better. And I want to I want to give back to the community, and I want
Yep.
to be an advocate for people who can't necessarily advocate for themselves, or who need help. I want to be able to be there for others more, as in
Yep.
donate more, because I think that's one of my biggest gripes right now, is that I I want to donate more. I'm like, I want to donate for this and this and this and this, and it's like, ah, but I can't because
Mm-hmm.
I need to make a living and have
Yeah.
some savings in case anything happens. And it's like my biggest goal is to have money, but not for myself, but to donate and to help others. That's something that I aspire to be able to do, is to donate. And maybe if my book is a success or something like that along those lines, I want to
Yeah.
use that for this. I want to be be there for others, like I would have needed someone to be there
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Yeah.
And I want, children who were like me to see, hey, there's an end to it. These there's an end to this struggle. There's an end to your family being in your life, and eventually when you turn 18 and move out, you will be able to cut and dye your hair. You will be able to wear the clothes you want to. You will be able to come out as gay. You will be able to make new friends
Mm-hmm.
who will be there for you. Because if I'd have seen something like this when I was 15, I would have been like, wow, nice. So there's an end to all of this in a positive way, not in a
Yeah.
way of, oh, I will have to run away or I will have to do this or that. It's just, hey, I'm 18 now. No one can really legally tell me that, oh, I can't do that. And no one can really stop me from going to the doctor, going to a therapist, getting better, and
Yeah.
if needed, cutting my family off, which I did actually and end up doing. I ran off to London for roughly 4 months, and I blocked my entire blood family so that they could not contact me. And while I lived there, I didn't speak to them. I just worked, got some income, and came home when I was ready to do so. And I feel like that was actually very helpful
Yeah.
because now they know that if I ever want to, I can just and never speak to them again. And I feel like that's something that is important to say, because yes, you might not be able to leave now,
Mm-hmm.
but eventually you will find those people who who would offer, hey, we don't have any space, but I will sleep on the floor so you could have my bed and get out of that situation. You will find those people who will genuinely be there for you and help
Yeah.
you. You will find a job. You will find a way to get out. And I think that's something that's very important, and that's what I want to be for others. I want others to feel free to reach out to me and to talk to me, because I feel like if that happened more, we would have far less issues in society as a whole, but also as uh, as queer people, especially in Hungary. We're a very small community and a very endangered community by law. And I want others to know that in Hungary, for example, I want others to know that, hey, you're not alone. We're here.
Mm.
It's a small group of people, but we're here. And we can do this. We can stay safe and we can help each other, even if it's in minor ways. And I think that's one of my biggest goals in life.
Nice. That's really nice to hear. Well, we want to say thank you very much for being so open and telling us some of the things that you've gone through, some of the things that you've done to help yourself. So we really appreciate you sharing our story, and it's so nice to see you happy. Like you said, we do have our ups and down times,
Right.
and we encourage you to keep on going, reach your goals, and we look forward to seeing that book being published.
I sure hope it will be. I switched to writing in English this year.
Yeah.
So I hope that with that I have a bigger chance at publishing it in a
Yeah.
in a in an efficient manner. And I will definitely hope that once my new job is settled in, I
Yeah.
will be able to focus, other than on my job, on finally getting it published, because oh my god, it has been way too long for this book to still not be published.
Well, thank you once again, Molly. We appreciated your time, your story, your goals, and we look forward to seeing you reach them. So for those ones who've been on the live stream, thanks for being here. For those who will watch it, please watch it again. Put some comments down below. And until next time, we've got an interesting character next time, which we'll tell you a little bit more later about. We hope that, we hope that you keep safe, look after yourself, keep smiling, enjoy your day. And until next time, we want to say thank you very much for being here, and look after yourself. Bye for now.
For having me. Bye, everyone.